Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club. Today we're going to keep talking about Lindsay Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents. This is her second work, and so I've been trying really to focus on the exercises where the material is covering stuff that was in her previous book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Where the materials are unique, I am trying to cover at a high level, being respectful of Dr. Gibson's copyright. So I do hope that you picked up your own copy and you're following along. Please do like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers. And check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can fill out a free life balance questionnaire and send it to us for your first free consult with no obligation thereafter. You can also just fill out a contact form or message us on the website and we'll be in touch. All right, so without further ado, we're going to jump into chapter 5 here. Give me just 1 second. We're going to jump into chapter 5. I did try and do more research this time, so I think in the last video I was trying to figure out and summarize on the fly, so I kept pausing, and I mean, you learn by doing, right? So I took some time to actually figure out what it is that I wanted to cover here, because I don't want to read every single thing. I do want to be respectful, but at the same time, I want to give you guys the points that are really important. I do hope that you pick up your own copy. You will gain so much more out of it by following along and taking notes and basically having a relationship with your book. All of mine have notes in the margins and flags and folded pages and everything, and I think that that's important, really taking time to digest things. You can also get that by watching these videos multiple times. If you live in Virginia, Dr. Gibson is actually a practicing therapist, so you could reach out to her and schedule a consult with her. That would be really cool. I'm in Texas, so I don't think she could see me, but nowadays with virtual, with Zoom and all of that, you could really have a therapist that lives anywhere. It just depends on whether they're licensed in your state. I think I've mentioned to you guys that I'm seeking my LPC as well. So in addition to the life coach hat and all of this self-help stuff that I live off of, I'm getting a real degree and a licensure to also be a therapist, to hopefully expand my practice. And I love, some of the interesting things about life coaching. You get to put on multiple hats, and one of the most interesting ones, and the one that comes very naturally to me actually, is business consulting. But then when it comes to, your life contains many facets, right? You have your relationship, you have your business, you have the relationship with your parents that affects a lot of what you do in your day-to-day. So all of the more like emotional stuff, that's why it's been 3+ years of just study for me, and that's what I'm sharing with you guys, because I do always want to come to you all from a place of knowledge, and if I don't know, I will be the first one to say I don't know and I need to do more research. And I think it's a good position to have, right? Not assuming that you know everything. But anyway, without further ado, I apparently love to hear myself talk. Without further ado, we'll move on to chapter 5, Skills to Manage Interactions and Evade Coercions. Actions that empower you. Interactions with EI parents can leave you feeling inarticulate, controlled, and powerless. If you grew up with EI parents, you probably didn't learn skills for handling emotional coercion and exploitation. But now, as an adult, you'll be able to respond in new ways. In this chapter, you'll learn how to establish boundaries and evade an EI parent's takeover tactics. However, please be sure to adapt these new skills to fit your personality style so they're within your comfort zone. Some assertiveness skills can feel so extreme, they seem to require a whole new personality. Overly blunt assertiveness can be uncomfortable to the point that even if you could do it, you wouldn't want to do it more than once or twice. For example, flat refusals and just saying no may work for some people, but it might not be your style. You may be more comfortable apologizing, demurring, and pleasing your way forward. The following skills will still work, even if you're hesitant, accommodating, or sweet by nature. If you end up with the outcome you intended from an EIP interaction, that's all that counts. Guidelines that will make your skills more effective. First, let's look at a few basic reminders that will make these skills more effective. 1. You can take your time. 2. Figure out the exact outcome you want. 3. Don't take immature behavior so seriously. Just be persistent. You can take your time. You may have noticed how rushed you feel around EIPs, as if you were irritating them by taking a moment to think. They are always hurrying their children and making everyone tense and uncomfortable with their low tolerance for delay. Because they are so self-preoccupied and have such low empathy, they can't see why others can't instantly give them what they want. Taking your time prevents emotional takeovers because you stay in touch with yourself. One of the most self-preserving things you can say to an EIP is, "I need some time to think about that." EIPs hate that phrase because in their mind, there's no need to waste time thinking. They don't see why they can't speed things along by telling you what to think. Figure out the exact outcome you want. Focus on how you want each interaction with an EIP to turn out. Aim your actions toward your preferred outcome rather than worrying about what the EIP wants. If you don't have a clear outcome in mind, the EIP will take over by default with their more rigid and single-minded approach. To identify the desired outcome for an interaction, ask yourself the following questions. If I got what I wanted from this interaction, what would that look like? Perhaps you set a limit with them and only agree to what you really want to do. Is the outcome I'm considering within my control, or is it up to them? Try picking a goal that you can make happen. Am I fixated on needing them to act differently? If you're looking for them to change, how about picking a different outcome that is within your power? Is my goal for this interaction my internal growth, acting differently, or both? You could promote your growth by staying aware of your feelings, or try new behaviors by speaking up when you disagree. Don't take immature behavior so seriously. Just be persistent. EIPs like to tell you what you should do, even when the decision is clearly yours. To evade this inappropriate pressure, here's what you do. Acknowledge their objections if you want. I hear you. But don't take them seriously. Vaguely listen for a minute, keep a light tone, smile pleasantly, and then repeat what you want or what you are planning to do. If you encounter resistance, don't make a big deal out of it. Just keep restating what you said before. It's not a dramatic technique, but like a river carves rock, it works. You don't argue because you don't accept the premise that your preference is anything to debate. You have made your decision. Arguing implies a legitimate contest of wills, and that, I hope, is not your goal. By simply repeating your decision, you remind the EIP that there are 2 points of view because, lest the EIP forget, you are 2 different people. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to start covering the 5 effective skills for dealing with EI parents. And she does have a couple stories, which I think are good to illustrate the skills that she's trying to teach us. So I'm going to go ahead and cover them. It's Vicky's story and Jamal's story. Please, please, please pick up your own copy. I think you can find the book for less than $20. Also, the library, your local library should have a copy. From my understanding, it's one of my friends that was trying to look them up. It's a very popular book and is usually there's a waiting list for it. But I'm sure you can check out a copy from the library. Audible also, if you don't yet have Audible, your first audiobook is free. And so there you'll get the full recording that I'm trying to be mindful not to do anymore. Okay, Vicky's story. Vicky was not planning to attend Thanksgiving dinner at her parents' home as usual because she and her husband wanted to join his family that year. When her mother, Maureen, brought up Thanksgiving, Vicky said it might be difficult to arrange this year and she would get back to her as soon as she knew. Vicky already knew what she was going to do, but she was giving Maureen a little time to get used to the idea before she actually declined. When Vicky finally told Maureen they weren't coming, Maureen predictably acted offended and rejected. Vicky started to cringe, but immediately reminded herself not to take her mother's feelings so seriously. Vicky could see Maureen's distortion field. This is terrible. I should come first in your plans. Vicky could see Maureen's distortion field in full operation, and she reminded herself not to take on guilt because her mother wasn't getting her way. Vicky kept deflecting Maureen's line of fire by smiling and taking it lightly. She just kept repeating her plans. You're right, Mom. It certainly will be different. I know you want us there, but this year just won't work out for us. This repeating yourself technique is a simple, honest way of sticking to your guns. The only thing Vicky had to do was to say the same thing pleasantly as many times as necessary until her mother brought it up less frequently. Notice that I didn't say until her mother dropped it. You can't expect EIPs to stop angling for what they want, but you can make it less rewarding for them to continue. Jamal's story. Jamal decided to quit his first job after only a year and go to a startup company that looked like more fun. When his domineering father heard about it, he was furious. He warned Jamal that he was being stupid and that it would look bad on his resume. Jamal said, "You might be right, Dad, but it's an opportunity I don't want to pass up." When his father kept arguing with him, Jamal just kept repeating, "You could be right, Dad, but I think it'll work out fine." So Vicky and Jamal wisely didn't argue with their parents' feelings because how their parents felt wasn't the issue. The only issue was their adult right to make their own choices. By deciding the outcome in advance, there was no room for their parents to coerce them with guilt, shame, or fear. Vicky didn't have to solve her mother's hurt feelings for her, and Jamal didn't have to convince his father. So you may feel like some of this is somewhat callous, right? You are learning how to care less, but you're really not. You still care, and you want your family to be happy. I think what she's trying to teach us, though, is as an adult, you have the right to make your own choices. And it could be that the choices that you make please your family or displease your family, but they need to be your choices. And if you live your life for the sake of somebody else's happiness, you probably can never do everything to make them happy. And you yourself are just going to be pretty miserable. So all of this is hard. Like, I want you to understand that I acknowledge that everything she's teaching us here is pretty damn hard. Very easy to write it out in an academic format and talk about it, but when you're actually in the situation, it will take quite a bit of practice to be able to deflect that type of criticism, not feel a particular way about it. I do highly recommend, if you have health insurance and you're facing these issues, work with a therapist. They're skilled in helping you understand when someone's trying to use fear, obligation, and guilt, shame on you, all of that stuff. And it's always good to have, especially if you are an internalizer. A lot of the internalizers that I've met, they're really good at asking other people about how they're doing, and they're not so good at sharing. They're somewhat sensitive about sharing their own stories. They feel guilty for having feelings or a perspective or needs. And so they're the constant friends that are like, "Hey, how are you?" And they never want to tell about themselves. You kind of have to pull it from them. So if that's you, if you're an internalizer and you find it hard to to express yourself, speaking with a therapist, or in our case with a life coach, you are paying this person for that particular purpose. And so it does help with some of that guilt that you may feel about, like, I don't want to burden them. I don't want to burden my friends. I don't want to burden my family. Well, in this case, you're paying a professional whose job is to help you. And so that can help you really feel better about, like, not wanting to quote unquote burden. And it's not a burden on your friends or your family. If they love you, if they care about you, they want to hear about everything going on in your life. It's just that you've most likely been raised by EIPs who didn't. They didn't care, and they weren't interested because it wasn't about them. But you have the right, and you should feel like the people around you want to hear about you. You have the right to be heard. And if the person that's closest to you in your life doesn't give you that, like, you have the right to search for it. You need that. Everybody needs that. You need, like, a best friend, a confidant. You need someone to care and ask you about how your day was and how you're doing, not just a one-way you asking other people. So I'm kind of somewhat getting on a soapbox here, but point being, I acknowledge that this work is very hard work. And you may watch this video once, it may somewhat sink in, and then you'll have to watch it a couple times before you can start actioning some of this stuff, and that's okay. I think that that's normal. So keep at it, keep plugging along, grab these books, read them, call me, let's talk. This is hard work, y'all. This is not easy stuff. So thanks for being here with me. If you're watching, please do leave a comment. I love responding to your messages. Please do like and subscribe, and check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Bye, y'all.